Hello everyone and welcome to our webinar. Today we'll be discussing express innovation using tomorrow's technologies. My name is Guillaume Kendall and I'm Director of Fintech and DLT here at SoftServe, and I'll be delighted to be joined by John Henriksson from BBVA and Leshko, our VP of Client Success, also from SoftServe. We'll be talking about how to use the latest technologies with a human-centered focus in this webinar. We hope you enjoy it. Here we are. So, as I said, my name's Guillaume. I joined SoftServe 18 months ago to really help drive the growth in financial services, as we're seeing a real increase in demand for the sort of very smart minds that we have and applying them to the financial services sector. We're based here in the beautiful Canary Wharf in One Canada Square, really in the center of a lot of innovation, a lot of excitement, a lot of drive to leverage data, AI, ML, blockchain, all these exciting technologies, but hopefully with a purpose for looking at these. And that's really what we're going to be exploring today. John Henriksson, Senior Technology Manager at BBVA, will talk a lot about the journey that BBVA have undertaken recently to transform from a typical waterfall organization to a very fast-to-move, active, agile organization. And we'll also be joined by Leshko, who will take you through one of our funner innovations, looking at how we can take a lot of technology which you'll hear about in the market, and apply it to a very human experience. I won't spoil much of that, so I'll let Ivan talk his part. Before we start, I'd just like to take a few moments to tell you a little bit about SoftServe, because I'm conscious you won't have heard of us, or if you have, you may not be quite aware of the sort of scale we have. We're quite well kept secret. We've got over 6,000 employees now. I think it's actually closer to 6.5, maybe even 7,000. I understand we hired 300 people just last month. So we're on quite a trajectory. That's evident by our compounded annual growth, which has been 30% over the last 5 years. We've delivered over 3,500 projects. And one that we're very, very proud of is our NPS. So if you're not familiar with that, NPS is Net Promoter Score. And that's actually a value between -100 and 100, where your clients every quarter have to rate you. 70 and above is something we're very proud of, because actually the industry average is more around the teens. We won't name any particular organizations, but having 70 is really empirical evidence that we're delighting our customers in everything that we do and their interactions with them. What do we actually do for them? So we've got a series of centers of excellence across which these 6,000 odd employees and engineers are distributed against. And these centers of excellence focus in these 9 areas. So experience design is a really important one. And Ivan's demo later on will explain really how we take the human-centric experience through to a practical deployment of funky technology. But a lot of people call this design thinking. It is absolutely a design thinking approach that we harness for our projects. Over 70% of our projects last year were delivered using design thinking. But the reason we call it experience design is because I think it gets more to the essence that we are designing experiences. We're more often than not landing a customer and you're speaking to lots of disparate stakeholders, and it's clear that what you need to get everybody to understand is what the future might actually visually look like once your implementation of whatever it is complete. And not everyone thinks that way. A lot of people get very excited about architecture diagrams, about components of technical design, etc. We like to lead with what the end product will physically look and feel like. And we feel that's an exceptional way to drive innovation and new projects with our clients. Most of our projects, of course, though, do rely on data. And by far our biggest growth area this year has been around big data and analytics. You can couple into that artificial intelligence, its connection with IoT and the amount of data that things are driving now and the kind of insights you can get. It's no surprise that security is at the center of everything we do. It's not an afterthought, it's absolutely at the forefront. DevOps, of course, more and more specifically within financial services, we're seeing a real drive to figure out a way to move off legacy infrastructure, legacy applications into containerized worlds where actually you can deploy and maintain these services to your customers in a much more frequent way. The Innovation Center is an application that we have developed and deployed across a number of our enterprise customers, which is not only helps capture ideas, and this is a theme I'm going to come on to shortly, but we feel is critical actually that you have a tool and a partner through which to drive innovation. But I'll talk about that shortly. And last but not least, research and development. Our R&D team are incredible. The sort of things that these people are developing are 5-10 years out. And in fact, I think it's worth mentioning, we've actually just built a laser in our HQ, which does nano level surface inscription. Can't tell you too much about the way in which we're going to deploy that, but just to give you a feeling that we're definitely not just a bunch of engineers stuck in labs where we're selling ourselves on a T&M basis. We're driving and engaging our customers in some really, really funky, exciting things. So what kind of customers do we have? Well, BBVA, which we're lucky enough to have on this call today, is one of our customers. Cisco, Deutsche Bank, Samsung. Hopefully an awful lot of names you can recognize there. I think overall we've got over 350 customers globally, which is very exciting. We've got about 30 offices globally. We're very well represented in North America, and we're constantly engaging more and more in the enterprise. So our background has been very much from a software engineering perspective. Cisco is one of our longest standing customers. I think over 15 years we've been working with Cisco. But in the last probably 3 or 4 years, we've seen a real growth now in the enterprise business. And that's really where a lot of this financial services innovation is coming from. What kind of things are we talking to our customers about? We recently launched a survey, and we are constantly thinking about the way in which we prioritize our own research and development through our university into the technologies that actually are going to be most interesting to our customers tomorrow. Cybersecurity, no surprises at the top there. We've touched on that. But big data analytics and is time and time again, we're seeing that people are recognizing that within their organizations, within their markets, data is the answer. But then you put on that design thinking element and you realize that actually extracting the value from the data, it relies very, very, very heavily on the way in which you're able to represent it, visualize it, digest it through any sort of number of your potential stakeholders. So we take our research seriously. We then try and shift and balance our resource capability, our insights, our research into these sort of technology areas. And then once you've realized that, we've realized that actually, if you're taking the AI data insights as the top priority for our customers in the next year, the personalization aspect of that is what's really driving it. And we've realized whether it's retail banking, investment banking, fintech, whatever you might be doing within this space, if you're not personalizing your experience to your customers, then you're going to quickly lose momentum and customer base. I myself have probably switched banks probably about 3 or 4 times in the last 2 years, just because I've been unimpressed, unexcited by the experience I'm gaining from one provider, and actually the ease of access to a new one. Now it takes 3 or 4 minutes, if that, to set up a new bank account, and I enjoy getting that personalized feeling. I'm not going to name my legacy bank, but it's incredible the amount of times they've offered me a mortgage product or a credit product or a new preparing for a new baby product, things that are meant to be personalized but actually have nothing to do with my personal circumstances. And if I've been banking with you for 25 years I expect more now. And that's the reason why I think personalization is really at the forefront of what people are looking to do with this technology. So once you've realized that you've got loads of data, you'd like to personalize it, you'd like to give people a specific experience, how do you get to innovate? And so my next piece is going to just talk quickly about the challenge we're seeing with innovation at the enterprise. Within financial services, it's interesting. A lot of our customers don't seem to have a problem ideating, getting ideas and committing them to paper or something else is the easy part. But there is a real challenge getting ideas through to delivery. We've got some experience around this, but I'd like to just talk through the typical process, and hopefully some of this will resonate. The way in which innovation typically happens in organizations, in enterprises, is that you get excited, you decide to bring business stakeholders to a technology workshop. You say, guys, you've got to hear about blockchain. You've probably heard about Bitcoin. Don't worry, it's not about that. Come on, let's get together. You commit a lot of time, energy, and resource into putting ideas onto whiteboards, notepads, workshops. You're thinking about them a lot. You're having telephone conversations with people, but ultimately, you're not getting any closer to delivering any actual value back to the business. In fact, how do you even prioritize which of those ideas are the best ones in which to try and proceed and iterate through? But so you've been through that process, and then you get back to your desk. In this instance, you've got almost 43 billion emails. And I think that's really, really important. Innovation doesn't happen on a one-off workshop, a series of workshops. It should be a continuum. And we have to recognize as agents of innovation and change that people have all sorts of different variety of priorities and strains on their lives of which they have to commit time. And unless you have an underpinning process that is a continuous enablement for people not only to commit ideas, but to select the best ideas amongst the best ones and validate those through some sort of processing, prototyping, etc., you're just going to lose any momentum you have, and ideas will stay on the whiteboard. So you have all your ideas stuck on one side of your innovation wall, and you're not getting to deliver any tangible products or services to your clients. What do? Well, you'll go out and buy a tool. Loads of these tools out there. We won't name any. We have one, but this isn't a sales pitch for that. And you get all excited because now people can commit ideas online. And that's fine, but is that enough? Because all you've got now is digital ideas. So we believe that actually the key to success is multifaceted in terms of innovation. It's not quite enough to be able to generate ideas, not the problem. It's not enough to be able to organize those ideas, either in analog or digital, because one thing's for sure, you might come up with an idea that's dependent on an AI, dependent on blockchain, dependent on robotics, dependent on augmented reality. And the truth is you're probably unlikely to have spare resource that sits there waiting for these ideas to come up on which for them to act upon. So we think a partnership is required. Not only to have the tool on which to collaborate, but actually a partner that may have an awful lot of resource in all these sort of areas that can actually give you the bandwidth needed to iterate through these ideas. But it's not enough to think, I've got a technology, what does augmented reality mean for my business? Because we believe that for every technology, there must be a need. And for every need, there is a human. And people keep losing sight of this. They lose sight of the human-centric element of innovation. And you can't do that, right? You have to get the buy-in and the understanding, the empathy of your user to put those very advanced technologies to work appropriately for whatever it is you're trying to solve. We have a process that we worked with actually with BBVA. So the process we went through with this particular client was actually to leverage the innovation platform as a tool to record an ideation process. So we had 3 weeks altogether, and the idea was not to get necessarily everybody together in a room and put Post-its down everywhere and remain in analog, we wanted to digitize the ideation process in order to rapidly validate which ideas were the best ideas and which would bring the most value back to the business quickly. And we did that by applying all the elements we've spoken about today. The platform to record the ideas, to vote on the ideas, to discuss the ideas, engage in dialogue, conversation, provide a communication channel between technology and the business, but then actually provide a resource to design the experience, the human experience, to the business users, get their buy-in. They can provide live feedback. It's quite a cool process. All of that is kept for prosperity digitally, and then you're able to vote on those experiences and then experiment on which kind of technologies might be able to deliver those experiences against different values, whether it's cost, time to market, innovative score, column inches in the news, right? There's all sorts of different ways in which success can be measured. And we did all of that with this client. And it was absolutely fascinating to see the innovation process driven through a very fast, iterative, and ultimately visual experience using our platform and our design thinking capabilities. So that's my bit now. I'm going to pass over now to John Henriksson from BBVA, and he's going to take you through the enterprise journey that they've been going through for the last 5 or so years. So any questions, please drop me a line. I think my details are at the end of this presentation. I'd love to hear from you. And yes, John Henriksson.
Thank you very much, Guillaume. So my name is John Henriksson. And as Guillaume said, I work at BBVA. I work in investment banking. And for the next 20 minutes or so, I'm going to talk to you about our journey that we've had when it comes to digital transformation, and specifically in innovation, which is one of the areas where I work in the bank. And I'm going to start at the beginning. So we started our transformation journey maybe 5 years ago. So 5 years ago, we operated like any other typical large company. With that, I mean that we had a need or desire to do innovation, and we typically did innovation external to the business units, meaning we had an innovation center. These innovation centers are often, as it happens in our case as well, that you have it in a beautiful building, sort of maybe in the city center, a bit outside of your corporate offices, and it's a good sort of attraction point to bring clients there, no? But they're not necessarily connected to your business and not close, neither physically, neither sort of logically involved in your day-to-day needs and operations. Budget cycles were yearly, meaning that in January you planned the budget for the whole year. And as that, in the beginning, it didn't work very well because you need to have some sort of adjustments. There was some periods in the year that you could maybe adjust the budget that you estimated sort of slightly ahead or slightly below what you needed, and you adjusted, no? And innovation inside the business was often limited to sort of proof of concepts. So if you had a small idea that you wanted to try, maybe you needed to evaluate a new product, you implemented something very small, and that was the scope of the sort of innovation inside the business. Project management was obviously 5-6 years ago for large companies all waterfall. So you planned what you were going to do, you did a typical Gantt chart, and you delivered, and you gave the customers the functionality that you thought that you wanted, no? And as sort of the fintech scene started to kick off, there was sort of an urgency in the banks to innovate, and people started to organize innovation events. the typical sort of breakfast meeting, or this typical sort of idea contest where we're going to do a long workshop and let's see what comes out of it. Often that, I mean, the format is very limited. So what typically happens is that you spend sort of 3-4 hours thinking about crazy ideas, and you fill the room with post-its and you take a lot of photos. But then sort of the follow-up is typically very limited, and that was one of the issues we saw, that the actual real outcomes of these meetings is not what was desired. And we also had very static teams with separate responsibilities. So meaning that I am head of databases, I am head of equities IT, and this is my area of responsibility. And we often worked with almost a sort of client supplier type of approach. You need to deliver this to me. How much is going to cost? When are you going to deliver? Okay, go and deliver. Let me know when you're done. And we had several different issues that we needed to resolve when it came to our approach to innovation and to deliver projects. One of the problems was how to make sure that innovation is applicable to the business. So think of that. We have this innovation center, great people, great ideas, doing design thinking, but they are not here, meaning that they sit outside of our business, particularly in investment banking. The products are a bit complex to understand. The back office operations are a bit complex to understand. So if you're not part of the business, how can you make sure that someone in an innovation center can deliver projects applicable to your business? It's really difficult, that, and I'm going to talk a little bit what we've done to address that issue. Obviously, Agile nowadays is quite well known, but when we started the journey sort of 5 years ago, we saw that how can we really meet customer expectations if we define all the requirements up front. So we define the requirements in January and we deliver in December. It's not easy to get it right, no? And you spend a whole year doing development only to realize that maybe what you deliver is not what the customer wanted. And the complexities around how do you make changes midway if budget and resources are planned for the whole year. As I said before, we introduced sort of checkpoints throughout the years, and we allowed people to refine the budget, but it was very difficult to say, let's cancel this project, or I have a new idea in the middle of the year. I need X amounts of euro to do this. Please allocate this to me. I mean, this type of sort of large shifts in budgets were very difficult to accommodate. And as I said, how do we follow up on the ideas that come out from the innovation events? You have this whole wall filled with posts with good ideas, but how can you evaluate which are the good ones, and how can you actually execute on some of them? That was difficult, and this problem with the teams being assigned to one area or another, also a difficult problem to solve. So what we did here was, first of all, we decided that we're going to do Agile. So everything became Agile, meaning that not only new projects, but even existing projects and existing support functions became Agile. That was very hard in the beginning, mainly because not all team could easily become Agile. So if you think about the development of an application, you often have, for example, the development team becoming Agile straight away. That's an easy transition to do. they start to develop and they deliver every 2 weeks. But what happens is you often have dependencies on other teams. For example, you have a dependency on the infrastructure team. They need to deliver the servers for you. The typical way of working in an infrastructure team that deliver, for example, servers, is very much waterfall, and a transition for an infrastructure team to become an agile team is not obvious. So what you happen is, at least in the beginning, is you have a part of your organization working more in agile, and you have parts working in waterfall. So you need to think a little bit about the methodology you're going to use there to accommodate for rapid sprints with delivery every 2 weeks, together with points in time where you're going to get the delivery on your dependencies. We then did sort of the next logical step, saying that budget cycles would become quarterly. I'm going to talk a little bit about that. We launched something called the Ninja project, which was to really increase the knowledge or the skill level of the internal staff. And we open up many positions in the bank to really be responsible for innovation and the transformation to become more digital in the organization. And let me go into a little bit of detail in all the different points. As I said before, it's not easy to become sort of an agile team in the beginning. That's hard. What we have seen with time is that the transition can happen, and it will happen. It's particularly started to happen when we introduced quarterly budget cycle. So let me talk to you a little bit about what that meant, because that is a very important aspect. So what we do now is every quarter we start the budget at zero, basically. So we have to go to committee where you have to present a business plan of what you're going to do in the next quarter. And you have to be very clear about what you're going to deliver to the customer, what are the benefits to the bank, what are the, if it applies, what is the income or the sort of P&L of the project, and then that project gets approved or not. You get so it's a bit of a sort of drag on then process, and that in the beginning it applied to projects, meaning that if you had a project that you wanted to execute, you had to pass this process. But as we moved along, we introduced this process to all the different teams in the bank, basically. So even in my team, we have support functions. These support functions, they also have to pass through this process. So the budget really starts at zero every quarter, and we have to present that we have this need and we have all these projects, and we're going to support them, and we're going to support them in this way. We're going to take part, for example, in their agile ceremonies, and the KPIs that we have identified are these ones, and this is how I'm going to demonstrate to you that we're going to become better in this quarter and that we're going to deliver more. So it's a constant pressure to improve and to demonstrate that you actually deliver what you said you're going to deliver. I have to be honest here that the process is very good for execution efficiencies. It's very good for seeing which teams are good at delivering and which ones aren't. It's also very motivating because you can in one, if you can have an idea one quarter, and the maximum you have to wait is one full quarter, and then you can present the idea to this committee to get funding. But But the process is also hard. It's hard because you start the quarter with the delivery that you need to do, knowing that at the end of the quarter you have to give a demo in production and show all the KPIs that you have identified. But at the same time, you have to prepare for what you're going to present in the next quarter. So the continuation of the project or the next project you're going to do. So you need to start working in the business plan or the KPIs or the presentation for the next quarter, maybe sort of halfway in the quarter. So it's not an easy process, but I think for when it comes to innovation and productivity, it's very efficient. And I mentioned before the Ninja project, and the Ninja project is it goes hand in hand with this transformation, because what happens is when you move to more an agile organization, and when you move to working on a quarterly budget cycle, it means that you really need to make the best possible use of all your internal staff. And what you try to do is maybe try to reduce more middle management. So you can think about an agile organization, maybe where people are more a pool of people that they can leave their organization to join projects for a period of time. They execute the projects and then they can sort of return to their engineering organization. But for that to happen, and for people to become effective, that maybe they were more middle management before, and now they have to actually be part of the execution team. It means that you have to increase the skill level, and the way that we increase the skill level is through this Ninja program. We launched it a few years ago. You start with a white belt, and you want to become a black belt ninja. And we do that with sort of multiple approaches. We do it first of all on a building level, because as a building, typically you have people with similar interests working on similar type of projects, and in every building we organize every week a talk where we talk about sort of new technology, and we try to create a bit of a community there around the Ninja project. And then we allow people to take online courses. So anyone is free to take any online course up to 300. And if they pass, we refund the cost. And we do a lot of different events. We do technical workshops where people can come, for example, to spend an hour to develop something in Python or machine learning. We do things like hackathons where we spend maybe 3-4 days to develop something, and we reward people. Maybe not so much in salary, but we reward people with being able to, for example, go to events or be in a panel or have higher visibility as you grow from white belt to black belt ninja. And I'm going to talk a little bit now about a couple of different use cases we have. So these use cases are things that we can consider sort of innovative. And I think it's interesting to see a couple of different approaches to how we implemented these projects. This first use case is a cross-border payment use case that we done using blockchain. I'm going to play a little video, and then I'm going to talk a little bit about how we executed this project.
How can blockchain help improve international transfers? A Spanish businessman wants to make an international transfer to pay for a set of goods that he just received from Latin America. Although he's going to issue the transfer order immediately, he has no way of knowing when the payment will arrive at its destination. Also, the businessman isn't sure about the amount of money he should transfer, because he doesn't know the additional charges the process may entail. As the days go by, his uncertainty grows. He has no way of tracking the status of the transfer, in which several agents are involved. At BBVA, a team of engineers, economists, and designers are exploring what tomorrow's international transfers are going to be like. DLT technologies, or blockchain, allow for improved communication between the parties involved in the process. The encryption properties of these networks also enable the immutable recording of transactions and enhanced traceability to make clear at all times what is going on with the payment. Finally, turning payments into a sequence of coded and digitally signed events makes it possible to collect all the information necessary about the process, from start to finish, and make it available to all the parties involved in the payment. Using blockchain technology, our businessman is going to make an international transfer to Mexico. Before signing the payment, he is already aware of the costs of the transaction. After signing, in just a few seconds, he receives a message confirming that his money has been received at the destination. Also, if any issues arise, he is perfectly aware of the status of his payment and has all the details he needs to identify it. At BBVA, we want to change the world of international payments, and that is why we are exploring new disruptive technologies that will allow us to deliver financial experiences that help simplify and streamline our customers' businesses. BBVA, creating opportunities.
So this project, as you saw, it enabled us to do real-time payments, and I can talk a lot about the benefits and why we done this project, but what I really wanted to talk about is the approach to the project, not so much the project in itself. And what we did here was we defined a minimum viable product early on. This was one of the first agile large-scale projects we ran in the bank. We did this maybe 4 years ago now. Very interesting to see that how the dynamics worked in the team. So we had the first session. I remember the first session still very clearly, with maybe 10-15 people with no agile experience, trying to define just the simple definition of what it is we're gonna do. Maybe it took us 2 days to define just very simply what is the scope of the project and what are we going to do. We certainly experienced this problem where a lot of the teams were working in Waterfall. I think we were one of the few teams at that point working in Agile and Scrum. So we had deliveries every 2 weeks, but maybe 90% of our dependencies were executed in Waterfall. So it was very, very complicated to do the sort of project management of the project. And the production demo in the first quarter was very, very complicated. Half the dependencies were still sort of being developed, and obviously that didn't really work the first quarter, no. But luckily we were in the beginning of the process, and they decided to continue with the project now, even if the first quarter demo didn't work that well. And I just wanted to show another project now that we skip forward maybe a couple of years in time. The project here, it's been published recently in the news, in the Financial Times. It's a project we done with blockchain, so we can do bilateral loans, syndicated loans using blockchain, and I'm going to show you a video here as well.
A business has a new and ambitious plan in hand, but it needs financing to carry it out. The company starts a laborious process with its bank, involving a lot of meetings, telephone conversations, and the exchange of a stream of emails to agree to the conditions of a loan. Also, it's not easy to keep track of everything that the involved parties have done. Once the conditions of the loan have been agreed to in a term sheet, the lawyers for both parties meet to go over the details of the clauses and draw up the final version of the contract. After negotiation, the company and the bank finally meet to sign the contract in what has been a complicated, overly long process with little digitalization. But this is where DLT and blockchain technology come into play and can bring about a definitive change in these processes. BBVA is developing a solution to make such negotiations with companies much more transparent and efficient, permanently transforming the experience of clients looking for loans. This affords the company greater ease of mind as it can follow everything that has been agreed to step by step and see the changes that are included in the agreement. The immutability granted by this technology allows us to know the status of negotiations at any point and guarantee that these are the agreed conditions. Negotiations are carried out entirely in digital mode, so that the term sheet with the agreed conditions is produced automatically. This greatly eases the task of legal services, as the contract can be drawn up on the basis of the clauses that have already been verified and do not need to be redrafted. Lastly, the contract is signed digitally. No need to go anywhere, at the office or wherever the client is. The process is reduced drastically. To further enhance the authenticity of the contract, BBVA's system involves using the Ethereum public network to register it when signed, generating the so-called hash. This allows the client to access it whenever required to verify it has not been modified. At BBVA, we continue to explore the application of new technologies to enhance efficiency and transparency in our processes and offer the best experience for our customers. BBVA, creating opportunities.
And as you saw, what we do here is we take care of the financing needs of our customers using a self-service portal. We do everything from contract generation to term sheet generation to accepting the loan, all using blockchain. As before, what I really want to talk about is the approach. As this happened maybe 2-3 years later, as I said, we as an organization had become much more mature. In this project, there was no clear MVP when we started. We knew that we wanted to transform the lending processes in the bank, but we were not sure really how. So what we started doing here was very rapid prototyping from the beginning with 2-week sprints. We said, okay, how could someone, for example, ask for a loan in a do-it-yourself portal? Let's prototype that. How could someone quickly generate the term sheet? Let's prototype that and see how that can work. And we started with a complete team the first couple of weeks, and we delivered incremental changes. You have to accept that some rework will be needed, and at some point you have to stop because you realize that you have to integrate with some internal systems, etc. But during the process, we also made sure that every 2 weeks we got customer feedback. We did demos, we did workshops, and of course we used cloud technologies. Just to give you an idea, I think the first project it took us maybe a year. Here it took us maybe 3-4 months only to do the whole project and to execute a real multi-million operation in blockchain. So it's a completely different velocity. And we have at this point we had really sort of refined this idea of rapid prototyping and sort of design thinking. And I'm going to show you another even more extreme case now. The example I'm going to show you now is another short video. It's a hotel booking system that we have developed. We did this jointly with SoftServe. What we wanted to do was we wanted to show something to our customers. So we have customers in our corporate banking section that are hotels, and we wanted to help them to think about ways to become more digital. So we are a partner of our clients, not only when it comes to the financing need, but we also want to share our learning experience when it comes to technology. So we developed this demo for them. I'm going to show the video here. And as you saw, what we have done here is a portal where you can actually have multiple competing hotels, booking hotels in blockchain. So think about a world where you have different hotel chains sharing the infrastructure cost of running a blockchain network, publishing all the different availability in this blockchain, and having this common platform where customers can go inside and they can do the booking of their hotels. No? So it's a different model where maybe you can think about traditional portals and their commissions. Are they needed, or is there any other way you can think about making a shared platform between the hotels, even if they're competing? No? So that was a little bit our idea that we wanted to show them. And here we did the whole project from the idea to implementation in only 3 weeks. So we did a very lightweight design thinking process together with SoftServe. We did very rapid prototyping. I think in the first 3-4 days, we could see a couple of different prototypes and different options. We did everything in the cloud. And every 3-4 days during these 3 weeks, we delivered new functionality, and we asked a little bit to get feedback from our business users about the functionality, and I think that was a success. When it comes to sort of 2 things. First of all, this to prove that this design thinking process now in the bank, it really works, and people are really used to the idea of thinking in a different way, not thinking necessarily in the typical waterfall approach, and that you can see that you can execute a project very, very rapidly in the bank now. That was my presentation. I hope you found that useful. For us, the next challenge now is to become an agile organization. It's something that we have started very recently. Becoming an agile organization means that not only do you do agile projects, but you change the hierarchy to fit an agile approach to doing projects. it's going to be interesting to see in the next couple of years how that plays out. And I'm going to hand over now to Ivan, who's going to talk about AI and Alexa. Thank you very much for listening.
In addition to brilliant innovations which Guillaume and John mentioned, I want to focus a little bit more how do we produce innovations at SoftServe, and what is the process, how do we pick up business challenge from a market, how do we pick up the cutting edge technologies to address this business challenge. And today I want to focus on one of our latest prototype. It's a stock market analysis based on AI algos and prediction, and again, a voice recognition tool, Amazon Echo Show, in communication to this AI. Let me share a presentation. AI and Alexa. Why do we choose those technologies, and how usually we look on technology market? The easiest way is, for example, to take Gartner hype cycle and look at it. It's very simple to understand it. That first part of this hype cycle is when technology just appear and early adopters try to use this technology everywhere possible, and hype around this technology is growing up. And it's growing up until it's reached the highest hype around this technology. For example, we can see this around blockchain for the last few years. So many people believe, even many conferences, communities, startups appear around blockchain, but in reality, so just few people get real business value from it. And when technology is getting like to the top of hype, the real business start to look at this technology and start allocating money and investing money to approach real business challenge of big companies and what do they struggle on the market. And so many companies, definitely they fail with adopting those new technologies to address their business challenge. And that's why people lose trust in the technology, and that's hype around technology is dropping down until like few guys, definitely they would get value from this technology, and technology would go up and make stable like life cycle and provide business value to like in long term. We usually look like at technologies which is like on top of hype, whether like those like early adoption processes move is like past. And for this prototype, we pick up machine learning and definitely like voice recognition, which is like really close or started dropping from hype. And next, I want to tell a little bit how do we pick up business challenges and why do we do this? In 1931, gold standard was canceled by Bank of England. What does it mean for financial services world? Before, all currencies, all transactions were really tied together to physical assets and were connected to gold, to silver, and such physical assets like gold and silver. After the Bank of England canceled, and entire financial world started moving slowly, step by step, in some kind of virtual reality, whether like to maintain, support this virtual reality around money, definitely we need technologies. And that's nowadays most financial services world is based on technologies. And if you look on the market and what kind of challenges, what trends is moving forward to on financial market, and one of the biggest trend is moving from B2B to B2C. What does it mean? I want just like for the beginning show the short video from one of like global exchange of trading process. What do we see here on this short 20 seconds video? That's trading process. There are like 18 guys, they are really professional trader. They spend probably 10, 20 years just to learn how to be a trader. to learn how to invest some like money, for example, into trading process, into metals or some companies, and so on. And what I mentioned earlier, that nowadays world and investment banking again is moving a little bit into B2C, where like a lot of money sits in our pocket, and consumers, they as well have ability to invest some money, but they don't have this knowledge. They don't have time, even 10 or 20 years, to read a lot of books, like graduate from university and to be a real professional broker. That's why technology should come and bring easy way and enable them to be a trader without reading a lot of books. That's why we took this challenge on the market, was like and pick up two technologies and try to enable end consumer to be able to trade, to be able to invest on the market. And we built a small product. We call it as robo-advisor. It's on backend AI, whether like it's automatically we took big data about stock price history and trends and what was going on the market for the last few years, and through big data solutions in the cloud and using machine learning and AI, we built prediction what would be next based on what we see was in past. And we tried to evaluate what is the level of quality. It was good enough, but we realized that there is like the other source of truth, whether like it's huge impact on the stock market. For example, it's news, regular news, yes, definitely. For example, if Google decide to invest $1 billion into Google Cloud, and Bloomberg released an article about it, Amazon would get really strong competitor on the market from Google side and so on and so on. What does it mean for stock market? It means that Amazon was mentioned in really negative way in Bloomberg news because they're getting really strong competitor on the market, when Google was mentioned in positive, and it automatically impacts stock market price in real time. That's why we decided to add news analysis like Bloomberg, Yahoo News, and multiple others to understand whether like what companies are mentioned in like more positive, negative, neutral way, and again like to make corrections to our prediction of what will be next on stock market. And we launched it to look if it's so quality, good, and so on. And we realized that there is a third like part of power, which is really important, and we cannot ignore it. It's social network. For example, last year, Mr. Donald Trump released one simple tweet, and it was like regular his tweet, but there was one really key sentence, which means Amazon must pay real cost and taxes now. What does it mean in total? It's simple tweet, one sentence on Twitter and social network, but this simple tweet, its impact, the Amazon capitalization dropped $5 billion within 1 hour. And we cannot ignore this factor. That's why, like as a third part to analysis, we added social network analysis. And what we get as a result from this product, we provided easy way for end consumer to make investments, easy way for them to make recommendation whether like to invest or not invest, based on stock analysis, data stock analysis, based on news analysis, based on social network analysis. And on backend is artificial intelligence, front end and interface and communication is voice recognition to Amazon Echo Show. And in backend, it's definitely is everything is running on big data and in AWS. And now I will show you the real scenario, how it's possible to interact and communicate with Amazon Echo Show and this broker tool, which enable user to make investments.
Today I want to show you a real demo of a product which we built at SoftServe Financial Services Lab, when on backend we have AI which do stock market analysis and do prediction what will be next on the stock market. And as an interface communication to AI, we have voice recognition tool Amazon Echo Show. Alexa, open broker.
Here is an info about portfolio status.
And Alexa automatically show me the home screen and what is the amount of value of my investment, what is the risk level, and of course, is it profitable or not. If I want to deep dive and understand what's going on with my portfolio details, I would ask Alexa, ask broker to show pie chart.
Here is an info about portfolio shares.
And Alexa show me from what kind of stock shares my portfolio consists and what percent of every stock share within my portfolio. It's like Apple, Yahoo, Google, and multiple others. If I want to deep dive and understand what is going on more granular level, I would ask Alexa, ask broker to show portfolio details.
Here is an info about portfolio
and
details.
Alexa automatically show me that what's going on within my portfolio details. For example, with Google, I am getting profit. With Apple, I'm losing profit. Overall, my portfolio is getting me profit, but I see that here is the options where like we can stop losing and we can try to optimize or make it better. And I would ask Alexa, ask broker to show possible strategies.
Here is an info about possible strategies.
It's every time 3 options of possible strategies. What is the current one? What is the optimal one? Well, it would be some optimal risk and definitely higher and better profit, or what is the highest profit, but again the highest risk. Of course, I don't want to put my money on the highest risk, like in this case 58% risk of losing my money. That's why I would probably choose the optimal one if I want to change something from existing. Alexa, ask broker to show optimal strategy.
Here is an info about optimal strategy.
And Alexa show me the chart, what's going on with my current portfolio status nowadays from profit standpoint, and what would be if I change from this point to optimal strategy. And within next 2 weeks, I would lose my profit, and I should not be scared because in longer term, like 3 months, my profit would go up based on AI prediction. Alexa, ask broker to confirm the strategy.
You have applied the strategy and the order has
As I like such option to have better profit in longer term, I ask Alexa to confirm the strategy. Alexa, go home. And Alexa automatically apply the strategy to production. And for one of our clients, we move even forward and we built one extra feature on top of this, where we built customer segments. Extra AI algos, they do analysis about my user persona, about my profile, what I like, what I don't like. For example, if I am a risky person or I am so calm and I don't want to put my money on a high risk, and it automatically adjusts prediction based on my user persona and what I really like and willing to do with my money in longer term or maybe in short term. And that's example of real demo product which we usually work and do within SoftServe Financial Services Lab. Thank you to everybody for listening to me.
So, this brings us to the end of the webinar. I want to thank Ivan Leshko and John Henriksson for taking the time to talk us through Express Innovation in the enterprise. Obviously, whilst you've been watching, I've traveled to Krakow, where it's very, very cold. But we want to wish you the best for 2019 and all that lies ahead. Thanks very much.